Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to trace the incredible legacy of a single word across three distinct, totally groundbreaking eras of human engineering. It's a journey that's going to take us from the battle-torn skies of the 1940s right onto the neon-lit streets of the late 90s and finally straight into the freezing vacuum of deep space. So think about this for a second. What on earth could a World War II fighter plane, a motorcycle capable of tearing down the highway at nearly 200 miles per hour, and a highly advanced robotic asteroid probe possibly have in common? It sounds like the setup to a joke, right? But uncovering how these vastly different machines are all connected by one defining trait reveals this amazing story about how we literally draw inspiration from the natural world to push the boundaries of technology. Well, the answer all comes down to their namesake, the Hayabusa. In Japanese, Hayabusa translates to the peregrine falcon. This is a bird of prey renowned all over the globe for its unparalleled speed, its darting agility, and its absolute lethal precision when it dives. And as we're about to see, the natural traits of this remarkable bird didn't just lend a cool-sounding name to these three legendary machines, they literally inspired their foundational engineering from the ground up. Section 1. Rulers of the Sky, the Nakajima Ki 43. We're kicking off our chronological journey back in the 1940s. The Nakajima Ki 43 perfectly embodied the Falcon's lightweight agility, and honestly, it was a massive leap forward for the Imperial Japanese Army Air Service. It was their very first fighter to rock an all-metal enclosed cockpit and retractable landing gear to drastically cut down on drag. But the real game changer here, its innovative butterfly combat flaps. This plane was basically built for one thing: pure, unmatched maneuverability. Because it was so incredibly lightweight, it had a blistering climb rate and could turn inside virtually any opponent it came up against in the early years of the war. It was the undisputed ruler of dogfighting agility. In fact, it was so wildly agile that American pilots frequently confused it with another famous aircraft. The Allies gave the Ki 43 the code name Oscar, but pilots often just called it the Army Zero. When you compare the Nakajima Ki 43 with the Navy's famous Mitsubishi Zero, both planes shared that striking, falcon-like lightness and maneuverability. They just darted through the sky in a way that left those heavier Allied planes seriously struggling to even keep them in their sights. But, engineering is always a game of give and take, right? And the crucial point here is that this extreme agility came at a really steep, often fatal cost. To keep the weight down to an absolute minimum, designers stripped away pilot armor and completely scrapped the idea of self-sealing fuel tanks. A single good burst from an American .50 caliber gun was often lethal. Plus, its own firepower was surprisingly light, just two 12.7mm machine guns, which really struggled to bring down those heavy Allied bombers. But despite those glaring weaknesses, the plane was so nimble that top aces like Sergeant Satoshi Anabuki, who actually claimed 39 confirmed victories, used the Ki 43 to devastating effect. By the later years of the war, the Ki 43 was considered pretty woefully obsolete against the heavily armored, much faster Allied fighters. Yet, a staggering 5,919 units were built between 1939 and 1945. It remained the Japanese Army's most numerous fighter right up until the very end, permanently securing its place in aviation history as a machine defined by pure, unadulterated agility. Section 2. The ultimate sport bike, Suzuki's GSX 1300R. All right, let's fast forward to 1999, where the Hayabusa name officially hits the asphalt. But this time, the engineering focus completely shifted from the Falcon's agility to its blistering, absolutely unstoppable speed. When Suzuki dropped this motorcycle, they didn't just build a fast bike, they literally created a whole new category they called ultimate sport. Designers and engineers collaborated from day one to maximize pure speed. They purposely mimicked the stoop, which is the high-speed dive of a hunting peregrine falcon. The result was this muscular silhouette with world-class aerodynamics that just sliced through the air with zero hesitation. And the result? 194 miles per hour. Let that sink in for a second. That is nearly 300 kilometers per hour on two wheels. Back in the late 1990s, the motorcycle industry was locked in this massive, unspoken top-speed arms race. Kawasaki had hit 176, Honda pushed it to 177, and then Suzuki just dropped the hammer with the Hayabusa, completely blowing away the competition and cementing its title as the world's fastest production motorcycle. It wasn't just fast, it was completely dominant. Now, as you might guess, releasing a literal two-wheeled missile to the general public had some major consequences. This extreme speed actually terrified regulators, especially over in Europe. Rumblings of outright government bans on high-speed sport bikes started making headlines. So, to prevent regulations from killing their own industry, manufacturers entered into a voluntary gentleman's agreement. They decided to self-police, officially capping all future motorcycle top speeds at exactly 300 kilometers per hour or 186 miles per hour. The Hayabusa was so incredibly fast that it literally forced the entire global industry to agree on a speed limit. But the Hayabusa didn't just fade away after the speed cap came down. Over its 25-year history, with over 200,000 units rolling off the line, the bike just kept evolving. The first generation in '99 established the legend. The second generation in 2007 bumped the engine up to 1,340cc and added the Suzuki drive mode selector to actually let riders tame some of that crazy power. And then the third generation in 2021 brought the Suzuki Intelligent Ride System, packing in modern electronic controls while still holding onto that iconic, muscular, falcon-like look that fans affectionately just call the Busa.
Section 3. Swooping into deep space with JAXA's asteroid probes.
Finally, we're leaving Earth completely and blasting into the vacuum of space. Out here, the Hayabusa name takes on the Falcon's final and arguably most demanding trait of all: absolute pinpoint precision. The original Hayabusa spacecraft, launched by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency back in 2003, achieved what was then the longest spaceflight in human history, a staggering 2,592 days. Its mission? Rendezvous with the near-Earth asteroid Itokawa and bring a sample back to Earth. Now, this mission was plagued with near-fatal problems. We're talking broken main engines and total losses of communication. But miraculously, the probe survived. It limped its way home and successfully dropped a capsule into the Australian outback in 2010, containing the very first samples ever returned from an asteroid. Taking everything they learned from that incredibly grueling first mission, JAXA got to work on a successor. Hayabusa 2 launched in 2014, this time targeting a primitive carbonaceous asteroid named Ryugu. While the first Hayabusa only managed to bring back tiny microscopic grains because of all its mechanical failures, Hayabusa 2 featured upgraded ion engines and vastly superior navigation. Because of that, it successfully returned a massive 5.4 grams of pristine asteroid material, which even included trapped gases, in December 2020. And honestly, the Hayabusa 2 mission was an absolute masterclass in deep space precision, packed with historical firsts. It was the very first spacecraft to successfully deploy operating rovers like Minerva 2 and Mascot directly onto the surface of an asteroid to study the environment up close. But definitely its most daring maneuver was firing a high-explosive shaped charge called the Small Carry-On Impactor directly into the asteroid. The goal was to expose pristine subsurface materials that had been perfectly protected from the harsh radiation and weathering of deep space. Just try to picture the mind-bending choreography required here. Millions of miles from Earth, this probe had to blast an artificial crater. Then it had to carefully wait and navigate around a hazardous, floating debris field in microgravity. And then comes the big moment. It had to swoop down, exactly like a falcon snagging its prey, touch the surface for just a split second to grab that pristine sample and safely ascend. These rocks contain ancient carbon and water, holding vital clues to the very origins of life on Earth. It's just incredible. Section 4. The legacy continues, never stopping evolution. When you step back and look at the incredible thread connecting all these machines, you really see how the legacy of the Hayabusa proves that a single, powerful concept from nature, the speed, agility, and precision of the peregrine falcon, can completely revolutionize how we fly, how we ride, and how we explore the universe. The creators behind these machines share a relentless drive to just keep pushing boundaries. As Suzuki Motor Corporation actually stated for their 25th anniversary release, the Hayabusa will never stop its evolution. And that sentiment applies across the board for sure. Out in space, JAXA's Hayabusa Q didn't just shut down after dropping off its samples. It's currently on an extended mission, using its remaining fuel to fly by a new asteroid in 2026 and rendezvous with yet another one in 2031. The evolution truly never stops.
Which brings us to one final fascinating question to wrap up today's explainer. We've seen this name dominate the skies of World War II. We've seen it conquer the asphalt of the 21st century to the point of literally forcing global regulations. And we've watched it meticulously snatch pristine rocks from the depths of our solar system. So, what incredible feat of human engineering will be worthy of wearing the name of the Peregrine Falcon next? Whatever it is, you can bet it's going to be incredibly fast, incredibly agile, and completely precise. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep your eyes on the horizon for whatever the Hayabusa inspires next.